welcome to the Third Row Tesla podcast. We're very happy to have you here. Today we have two very special guests that I know very well, two very good friends of mine. And we also have our Third Row Tesla crew, so I'll go through our crew first. So we've got Omar Kazi, Tesla Truth.
Boom.
Good to have you here, man. And we got Galileo Russell from Hyperchange.
Hello.
And we got K10, Kristen on Twitter. All right, cool. And then we've got our special guests, Eli Burton and Anuarbek. How you guys doing today?
Yo. So excited to be on.
It is great to finally be on here, man.
Sweet. We're so happy to have you. Yeah, sorry it took forever to get the Tesla podcast, the Elon story out, because it was like a 5-hour episode. Well, actually, we were with him for 5 hours, but the video condensed down to about 3.5 hours.
I can only imagine, and I heard a bit from you, the editing time it took to put all that together with 7 or 8 different video feeds, and you had 2 guests jump in, show up, kind of unexpected.
Exactly. Yeah, 8 video feeds and then also 8 separate audio feeds. So my Final Cut Pro viewing screen was just basically tons of streams. Yeah, my computer was running really slow.
You know what I've been telling my friends? I'm like, this is the Fabergé egg of Elon interviews. There'll never be one like this. Honestly though, not only Elon doesn't spend 5 hours with people typically, right? It's 30 minutes maximum, but he was so calm. Yeah. That's amazing, dude. And then his brother comes in. His mom is sitting in the background. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is never gonna happen. This is never going to happen again.
Marvin the Martian was sitting on my lap. I mean, this sweet dog came over to me, and I was petting him, and I was like, what the heck? I'm probably not going to get another chance to pick his dog up. So I picked him up, put him on my lap, and he was totally happy. And then he was super thirsty, so I started giving him some water.
That's so
and
amazing.
And then Gally was asking him a question, and you could see he was really distracted because Marvin was licking the water out of my hand. Well, I had a little cap. And he finally stopped. He said, "Oh, Marvin, what are you doing?"
That's funny.
It was hilarious, man. Yeah. So we kind of thought it would be nice to have you on the podcast and we talk a little bit about our Elon story, but also you guys have met Elon as well. So love to hear about your stories of how you first met him and that history there.
So I've had a couple run-ins with Elon. Probably the one where I actually probably truly got to meet him and talk to him was at the Boring Tunnel unveil, actually.
Cool.
That was a totally insane event because we didn't know at the time when we got our invites, but there was very few people from the outside community, Tesla community, or even social media community there. It was mostly an event just for investors and insider people. And where that became really clear was they didn't have this normal security separation at events like they usually do with Elon, right? At a product unveiling, you can't get to him. Right? If he's even visible, he's behind gates and fences and security guards. At this event, he had a security there, don't get me wrong, but he was just one of the people. And the attendees were guys like his friends, like Jervison and the big time guys that are back in his empire. So as a result, you literally could just walk up to him and talk to him. And for me, this was the first time I got to actually walk up and talk to him. And I just wanted to know, had he seen The Adventures of Starman? Right? Because I'd 3 months since I launched this thing, I'd been trying to get copies to him every which way, never heard anything back. I just wanted to know if he liked it because a big part of it centered around him and what he did. And, I did it without even asking or even telling anybody I was doing it. So just for the sake of knowing I wasn't going to get a cease and desist letter from his attorney, I really wanted to know if he liked it or not. And it was cool too because I was like, hey, Elon, did you see The Adventures of Starman? And he's like, was that you? And I was like, yeah, I created it. And he's like, oh, that was awesome. I was like, and then I kind of just blacked out. I don't know what happened for the next hour.
I was there and recorded the whole interaction. What happened, I guess, when he blacked out is Elon grabs this comic and he signs episode 1 or something, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, this is amazing. And he signed it and he gave it to Eli. And I'm pretty sure he framed it and put it in his will. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's framed on the wall right over here next to me, actually. And
Sweet,
it is, yeah, people are like, oh, you going to sell it? I was like, you obviously don't understand me or understand how important this is to me to think I would ever consider selling it. But it's actually in my will that even my kids or grandkids, they're not allowed to sell it. The only thing they can do is donate it to the future Elon Musk museum because there's going to be one. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
No, it's super special to me, though.
Those are some strict restrictions you dropped on your kids. I mean, it's the same thing though, because at the end of the interview, I was like, Elon, will you sign my car? And he signed Safian's Model S too. People are like, oh man, your resale value just skyrocketed. I'm like, resale value? I'm not going to sell this thing. It's one of the first Model 3s.
And Elon signing it, right? It makes it that much more personally meaningful to you. Like, that value is worth way more than the money.
Hey, maybe your comic book and my car will be in the Elon Musk museum together one day. Who knows?
That would be really cool.
Hey, Omar, did he sign your visor, though, or did he sign something else?
Yeah, he just signed the passenger. I was thinking about it for a while. I was like, where do you get Elon to sign the car? At first, I was thinking, like, in the glove box. Then I actually looked in the glove box, and I was like, that's not going to work. And I was thinking, like, the trunk, no. Passenger visor, perfect. Fold it up, still have a perfect car. Fold it down. You know, there it is. You can show it to your passengers.
Mic drop, right?
Well, the cool thing about doing it on the visor is you can actually swap visors if you do happen to get another car. So that's what he signed my visor too. But I've seen him sign other people's cars literally on the dash, like or on the outside of the car or something. So
I think maybe I'll protect it and leave it when it's a robo-taxi and people just be like, did Elon seriously sign this? But the other thing I tell passengers is, oh yeah, Elon sat in that chair you're sitting in when he signed the car. So that's pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah, totally.
All right, Anuarbek, tell us about your story, man.
Dude, my story with Tesla goes back quite a ways, like 7-8 years ago. One of my very close friends was actually hired by Elon early on. He was an executive at Tesla. And this is where, like, my wife and I actually went toward the factory. I think Model S had been out for maybe half a year or a year at the time. So this is super early on. And I, like, saw everything firsthand and had, like, a legit come to Jesus moment. I was like, oh my God. You know how Gally makes you feel after every video? Like that. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be massive. People don't know that I'm doing this. So then I start buying Tesla early on. At one point, I, like, cashed out some of my 401k. Like, I went crazy with it. And when my friends were questioning what I was doing, you know what I told them? I'm like, sometimes you have to invest with your capital on the future you want. Do you guys remember early days, like 2012, 13? ExxonMobil, Chevron, these were the huge market cap companies. This is before Apple was the number one company, then Amazon. It was a different world. Like, we forget that wasn't that long ago. Totally. So I was just like, I want my kids and grandkids to grow up in a world where Tesla is the biggest company in the world, followed by Amazon or something, you know? So that was the whole, but so my interaction with Elon and all the Tesla executives kind of happened because of this friend. It was a semi-unveil. So he comes up, Eli, were you with me? I don't know if you were, but like he comes up and slowly gives me a bracelet, and I don't even know what this is, but it was like the VIP bracelet. He's like, hey, JB Straubel wants to meet you. And I'm like, how does JB Straubel know who I am, first of all? He's like, well, I told him you're from Kazakhstan, and his roommate from college was from Kazakhstan. So for some reason, I don't know how this happened. It was just like this whirlwind. I don't even remember. So I go up and I watch the semi unveil. Soph, I think I showed you the video. I was standing with Elon's family. His mom was behind me. John Favreau's to my left, and Elon's two twins. I got one in each armpit, basically. And I'm watching it with JB Straubel next to me. And the reason I got to be the first person to ride in a roadster is I got like a small hint that there could be something, a special surprise. So they told me to go wait in line, and I'm like, for what? So I had this bracelet where I could ride in the roadster. So I was the first person, I'm pretty sure, to ride in the roadster that's like a non-Tesla employee.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think you said, oh my God. Yeah.
That's my claim to fame. A lot of people have seen that video. So I'm like, I'm the Asian dude. And they're like, oh my God, yeah, that's you. Yeah. And whenever I came out, all these people, I was like one of the first people to ride. So like people were filming me. They're like, what did you think? You know what I told them? I'm like, dude, that was terrifying, but in the best way possible. Like, that was the closest. So because of that event, that's when so JB was super cool. He introduced me to Ira Ehrenpriest, the board member, and I don't know why Ira and I got along really well. So we started taking photos, like Jurvetson came. So I hand my phone to this lady that's standing next to them. I'm like, hey, can you take our photo? So it's basically the board members and me in the middle doing this. And then Ira goes, you don't know who that is, do you? I go, no. He goes, that's Elon's sister, Tuska. So I'm like, here, could you? I was like, could you? And she was like super nice. She's like, oh yeah, like so taking photos and we're all sharing it. So I had these. I didn't actually meet Elon at that event, but the first time I had an interaction with him was this really funny story. He came to Austin for South by Southwest. This was like 2-3 years ago. Do y'all remember this?
I think so.
Yeah, that's when him and Kimball sung like "My Little Buttercup" or something on stage together.
Yeah.
Like while he played the
Yeah, I
guitar.
remember that.
It was like the most. It was like the wildest thing.
So get this. So get this. My wife and I actually live in Houston at the time because I'm still working in oil and gas and all that. She sees that Elon, like they announced it like the night before that he's going to be, it's like a surprise on people that he's going to be going to or he's speaking. It's a surprise appearance. We wake up at like 3 a.m. She sees the email at 2. So we take a quick shower and we don't sleep. We drive to Austin. This is like the level of fanboy. We drive 3 hours to Austin, Texas, wait in line and get tickets to go to the presentation. I got super lucky. One of my friends lives at the Four Seasons residence in Austin, and Four Seasons is like the fancy hotel here. And I wasn't putting the two together, but that's where I parked my Tesla. So we're walking back from this event, and my wife is like, I bet Elon's staying at the Four Seasons. And me and her are just like joking about it, right? And as we're walking, imagine walking back to our car, I look left and I see a caravan of Teslas. And guess who's like 2 feet away from me? Elon Musk sitting in a black Model X, tweeting probably or whatever, right? And I'm like,
Probably.
and like I could touch him. And I'm like freaking out right now, right? I'm like, oh my God. And like, there's like a caravan. So there's like 5 or 6 Teslas. And we're like a block from the Four Seasons. So then I tell my wife, I'm like, if he's actually staying at the Four Seasons, I'm going to go up there and try to like meet him. So sure enough, like they pull into the Four Seasons, and this is where like panic starts. I'm like, okay, how do I do this? Because I'm sure there's all these like people that come up. So I basically like run up there, right? And Sam, who's like a friend of mine now, who was his chief of staff. I don't know Sam at the time. So I go up and I'm like, hey, my name is Anuarbek. I think I said something like I'm the president of a Tesla owners club in Houston. I was like in the Woodlands area. And this guy's like, show me credentials. And I'm like, you don't carry a business card that says you're president of a club. And I'm like, oh my God. But I remembered, I'm like, dude, I took pictures with like all of Elon's like inner circle. So I show him, I'm like, and while I'm doing this, guys, I'm having like a legit panic attack. Like not joking, like I couldn't speak, like I like froze up. And my wife was like, this is the second time you've had it, right? Like you had it when you met me. I was like, no. This is like, I froze up and I couldn't speak. I don't know how to explain it. Like it's a panic attack. So while I'm trying to explain to Sam, I'm like I'm showing them photos and it's like JB and me are like hugging each other and all this whatever. So he was like, oh, you're cool. Basically, he thought like I was like, so he goes to Elon, and when he goes to, so Elon, Kimball are getting out of the car, getting their stuff out. So Sam goes over there, he goes, wait 1 minute. He's like, I'll bring Elon to you. And this is where I'm like, okay, dude, like, get your shit together. So then Elon comes up, and I don't even remember what I was saying, right? It's just like this, like he was super cool. We like talked for a good while, and then my wife wasn't there. So I'm like, hey, let me introduce you to my wife. So we walk over, and my wife was like hiding behind like one of the like structures or whatever. I'm like, hey, this is my wife. And then Elon was like, hey, let's all take a photo together.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah.
That's cool. And remind me, what you have a Model X, right?
At the time, I think I had an X, yeah. I'm on my 3rd Tesla now. I'm like you guys, you know.
Cool.
I just bought a standard range Model 3, which I love.
Oh, you did? Congrats, man. Do you also have your X as well?
No, so get this. I was gonna drive both of them, but I got the 3 and I was gonna rent out the 3, right? Like Turo and all that kind of stuff. But I drove it once and I like did not get back in my X. It just sat there collecting dust. So actually yesterday I sold it to a friend of mine in Houston. I drove it over there and dropped it off. So now my daily driver is my standard range $35,000 Model 3. And I love it, dude. It's so much fun to drive.
I drive my Model 3 more than my S, even though I could drive them equally, but my wife loves the S, so it works out best for both of us because, the 3 is just such a fun car. But anyway, I mean, now it's got Elon's signature on it, so, it's even better. Cool. So yeah, how about thanks for sharing your guys' stories. I mean, we can talk a little bit more about what it was like with kind of our experience with Elon. I don't know if he's ever done anything like this before, with especially for so long, because I think our podcast was probably the longest discussion he's had with community members. I mean,
for sure,
something else out there.
For sure,
it was kind of epic. So all my GoPros actually filled up completely. So there are certain camera angles I can't show because there was no video left. I filled up completely, like 4 hours plus of video on there.
That's crazy. By the way, did anybody have a panic attack like me, or am I the only one?
I don't know. I feel kind of bad just like bothering him. You know, I don't know. I mean, it was kind of my feeling was like that it was surreal. You know, like I was like, is this really happening? You know, and I mean, we were just sitting there for a long time, but you know, honestly, like I think you know, there's so much stuff I want to talk about. Like that's happened since then. You know, we've been talking about that so much, but so like hopefully we can talk about a lot of that stuff. But the one funny story that that I think is worth telling is just like how this whole thing played out. So, you know, obviously like for people who remember Viv, who isn't here, you know, time zones in Germany or something, she got that original tweet where she said, hey, you should come on the podcast. And Elon just goes, okay, sure. And then we're all like, what? Like,
at that point, we started the podcast literally less than a month before that tweet. So we're thinking, oh shit. We were thinking we'd have like 6 months to prepare and get really good at what we're doing. And it was like, we're just newbies at this stuff. You know, we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, and we hadn't even figured out how to record the podcast yet. Like, we literally had no clue what we're doing. So now it's like, oh shit just got real. Elon's coming on. So we end up emailing some of his people. Or actually, Viv emailed one of his guys and copied all of us, and also copied Elon. And she goes, the tweet, when should we do this? And he emails us back at first and goes, okay, well, you know, I'm thinking the 7th of January at Tesla's headquarters in Palo Alto could work out. So everyone's all excited. They're like, all right, let's book our flights. Let's book our plane. Let's book a hotel. We book like an Airbnb for like $2,000 in Silicon Valley. And Gally books a flight from New York to the Bay Area. Viv books a flight from Germany to the Bay Area. And actually, Safian and I think maybe Gally chipped in too. Maybe I forgot to pay for Viv's flight. So they pay. So they get Viv a flight, and we get all the Airbnbs. You know, K10 obviously she's in Oregon. So we have all these arrangements planned out. Then we get an email from one of Elon's people, and he goes, hey, you guys didn't book your flights yet, did you?
By the way.
And we're like, yeah, I think we kind of did. I was the only one who didn't book anything except the Airbnb.
What was hilarious about that was when he told us the 7th, Vincent and I were talking about this, and Vincent was like, oh, such an honor, because this is the 1-year anniversary of the groundbreaking Gigafactory 3, and it's going to be so cool that I get to see Elon on this day and thank him in person. We weren't all thinking like, wait a second, this is the anniversary, surely he's going to be there. But I think even Elon didn't know about it until like afterwards. So, yeah.
So Elon ends up going, okay, I have to go to China on the 7th. And the funny thing is, I think Vincent actually gave the idea to somebody that they should do something on the anniversary of the Gigafactory groundbreaking. And so he's like, okay, well, I have to be in China. I can't be there. So we'll reschedule him. So we're all kind of like down because we had a date. And now we don't have a date. And it's like, oh, man.
So it's Vincent's fault.
Yeah. And then it goes, okay, well, maybe we can do the 3rd. And we're like, oh shit, that's even sooner. We're completely unprepared. So he's like, okay, let's do the 3rd in LA. So everybody comes, they fly down to LA. They just end up staying at my house because we already blew all the money on the Airbnb. And so it's Friday. We wake up. I think there was some good news that day. Like Tesla stock was taking off. What was it?
The deliveries, I think.
Oh, the deliveries. Yeah. So they announced 112,000 deliveries, and we're all like pumped up. It's like a great day. We're going to go record the Elon interview at SpaceX later on Friday.
Well, actually, we didn't even have a location yet.
Yeah, you guys like woke me up screaming at like really way too early in the morning. Be like, oh my god, like.
Gally was on the couch and people were taking photos of him without his knowledge.
Yeah, I was like, you guys don't think I check Twitter every hour of my sleep anyway? Of course I already saw this.
It's like, what's this tweet of Gally sleeping?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was bad.
So then we're all sitting outside, and then we get the email again, and he's like, hey, we might not be able to do it today. And Vincent's like, I was supposed to fly to China literally after this interview, so if we're doing it tomorrow, I can't make it.
Wow.
But then Vincent ended up changing his flight again. Other people changed their flight again. I think Kate's was supposed to fly out. She moved her flight. And then they're like, okay, well, you guys... and Viv was going to take a tour of SpaceX. So they're like, okay, do you guys want to go take a tour of SpaceX? And we took a tour of SpaceX. It was like, holy shit, this is the most amazing place ever. And it's just like Batman's lair in there. Then later that day, we get an email like...
It was like 10 at night and we were all freaking out.
Yeah, literally, we were just practicing. We were sitting outside the fire, just doing a test recording and stuff, because we still didn't know if it was going to happen or not. But we thought we'd have some fun and do some practice. And then, sure enough, got this text from our helper, from his first-hand man, saying, can you guys make it? And then with the address. And we're just like, oh, shit. So this isn't headquarters. This looks like a residence. And we looked it up. Sure, it's just like down the road from where Elon lives. So, super excited about it.
And then the funny thing is when we went to SpaceX, we're like, he keeps rescheduling on us. And the SpaceX people were like, yeah. He's like...
There was supposed to be a meeting. Elon was supposed to be there at SpaceX when we were there for another meeting. And the guys are just like, nah, he's probably not going to be here. They were expecting that sort of behavior. So I think it's normal we got bumped 3 times.
Our friend Ryan McCaffrey, who had Elon on his podcast like 3-4 months ago, it probably was 4 or 5 months, I think, of reschedules before a date finally stuck.
Oh, so we got lucky then.
Totally. Yeah. No, you guys got very lucky. So like when it was happening, I was worried that like you guys would all end up going back home and it would be like a month later or something crazy. But yeah,
and he gave us the whole day too.
You guys got extremely lucky because for him, like there was a number.
Yeah, super thankful.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, even
really
like Lex,
unexpected.
Even like Lex Friedman, who was interviewing him about AI, one of his biggest obsessions, still only got like an hour and 20 minutes with him.
Yeah. It was actually funny when he walked in. He was like, all right, guys, I had a workout. I just canceled it. Let's go. Let's go all day.
I didn't go to the gym. I'm here with you guys.
Yeah, something like that,
Yeah, and then when I went to shake his hand, it was funny because Kristen was like standing around the corner, and we went to shake and we didn't quite make it. It was so awkward.
The room was weird. The shape of the room.
With my hands. Ricky
yeah, it was really awkward. I was like, Elon. I was like, yo, Elon. And then I like shook his hand and he's like, hey.
Jellyfish.
I'm like, oh, shit. Like, I don't know. It was like the whole thing was kind of embarrassing in a way that like, I was like, oh, shit. Like, does Elon think I'm an idiot or something? Like you feel very self-conscious. Like you're with Elon Musk and, you just spend all this time talking to him. It's like, oh, like, did I ask a good question? And we were so unprepared because we thought the whole thing was going to be about him. And when we got there, he was just answering anything. And then leaving, I was like, fuck, there's so much we could have asked him. Like, we were just throwing out questions about Maxwell, Gigafactory. It's like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think it was
like
great
answering them.
For the purpose of this being like giving him a platform, like a loudspeaker that he can get messages out. And we have no agenda, right? We just want to help the mission. So I think to gain that trust and to make sure that he gets out what he wants to say, because he certainly wanted to say quite a lot, he was able to clarify quite a few things, right? And he just said at the beginning, too, you can ask me anything. So he was very open, which was showing that he already trusts us. But so we didn't want to lose that trust. We definitely wanted to build on it. And by the end, he wanted to do it again. So that I think we accomplished what we hoped and gave him the platform that he wanted. So it's really cool.
All right, enough about Elon, I think, because we haven't done this podcast in a while, and some crazy shit has happened since the last time we recorded a podcast.
Like with the stock price and stuff?
I mean, the stock is
Yeah.
the least of it. I mean, yeah, the stock, nearly hit $1,000. It went up and down like crazy. That was the whole thing. We got the Q4 earnings call. I mean, they were dropping some heavy hints about making their own cells, which is really exciting.
Battery Investor Day. I'm so glad you lobbed out those questions, Omar.
April.
Like, I was too scared. And you just kept, during the Elon interview, and you're like, what about Maxwell? What about the dry electrode? Like, he couldn't, And then the way he said, like, not ultracapacitors, but the dry electrode was the key. Like, that was huge. And then on the earnings call, like, the analyst kept asking about it. He was like, well, like, that one guy was like, I guess I'll have to read the blogs. So I just thought that was so
a
funny.
Great moment, because everybody of us on the internet who knows you and know what's going on knew Elon was talking about you, Gally. So that was.
I mean, I feel like he was talking about the community, really, because like
He liked your
dude,
tweet.
you should have just
bro.
said hypertension.
He liked your tweet right after.
might as well
that,
have
too.
just
He
said
definitely talked about you.
Well, Gally and the community. I mean, I think he was just kind of like listening to these questions from analysts, like, okay, these guys have no clue what they're talking about, and I'm seeing these like tweets, these hyperchange videos. I just went on the Third Row podcast, and people are asking me, is dry battery electrode one of the consequential things? And it's like analysts just have no clue, right?
Definitely. That's because I got to change our thumbnail so they can actually find our videos.
True that. And part of it, too, is a lot of these analysts, they're just financial analysts. All they do is analyze numbers. A lot of these analysts really are not actually diving in and trying to understand these companies. There are analysts out there that actually do their job and work for big firms and big investors that help make their bosses a lot of money. But a lot of these guys, the reports that they give in are so fly-by-night, seat of their pants. I think, what is it, Adam Jonas, who has the bear and bull case?
He didn't know what he was
Tesla
talking
0 or
about.
500.
It was still still wrong.
You can totally tell that they have this like equation that they're sitting in front of their computer, like a cell, and they're trying to put in a number. I hate that. Whenever they ask questions, they're trying to lead into like what's a multiplier for revenue or whatever, right?
Yeah.
They're not asking like what's really going on, the substance. They're just trying to plug into their models, dude.
Right? And it's like, we don't care about your financial model. Like, stop wasting everybody's time with this. Like,
I was gonna say that when Gally kind of came on the scene in a big way was that famous earnings call when Elon
Boneheaded
got fed up.
questions.
Yeah, he's like, boneheaded questions. Just go to YouTube. And that's what I tell everyone when I introduce Gally. I'm like, this is that dude. This is my friend. No big deal. And then Gally comes on the scene and like, I mean, what he did. Now it's like a normal thing. This was like a year ago. Like a retail investor wouldn't even think about asking questions during an earnings call. This is something I've always wondered, because I always call into companies I'm interested in, but you never feel like you're part of it, right? These like super dry, like, guys that get paid all this money, they call in, they ask boring questions. That's what I thought it was about. Like, I feel like Gally and Hyperchange, they like changed, like it made the earnings call so much more fun.
dude, and they still open with all the retail investor questions from Say, which is what came out of, I worked with Tesla and Say to actually set this up. And so now it's like, to see them lead every single quarter with it is so cool. And it's kind of like Tesla putting the community first again. I hope more companies do it. I feel like everyone's still like so behind, but Tesla's earnings calls seem to be way better.
Yeah, that's because of you, Gally. So thank you for doing that, man. That was a awesome thing you did.
Eventually, when other companies do this, it's going to be because you helped lead the way in doing that with a company that's Tesla that has so much attention on it. And it's funny, people give Elon a hard time for kind of being a jerk to analysts and these MBA types. But like, I don't know if you guys ever watch Shark Tank, but anytime somebody comes on who's that classic MBA and they're talking about their financial models instead of focusing on the product and the market for the product, Mark Cuban goes off on them. And nobody really gives him a hard time for that. But it's really the same thing, just sitting on opposite sides of the table.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Just the whole kind of like community crowdsourced research. And, some people will kind of look down on it. They'll be like, oh, these people are just fans. Somebody on Twitter today called, Clean Technica Elon hand job outlet.
I saw that.
It's kind of like, if you actually understood what was happening, you'd probably be excited too.
Yeah, you're right. They're super cynical. I think journalism as an industry is a very cynical space, and very clearly by that tweet.
The big rumor, or like the thing that was going viral online, is people thought y'all's podcast, you guys are like paid actors, right? like friends of Elon.
Oh well, that's been for a while. Even before the
really?
podcast, Even
Like
before
on
the
Twitter.
podcast, people were saying we were paid by Elon.
The Tesla
Yeah.
Truth account. I mean, that goes way back. So
I'm gonna set this straight for the social media community. I've known some of these guys in here for years and years and years. They're not paid actors by Elon Musk. Let's get this record straight. I've known these guys for a long time.
And even further, we've never gotten a cent from Tesla for anything, or Elon.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like Tesla's, every single person has to buy their own car. I think they don't even give it free to like Elon. I think that's so cool.
Elon's mom, listen to this story. That when I was telling you about the semi truck. So Elon's mom is here, John Favreau is here, and I'm like, Miss Musk, so you're gonna get a Model? This was like before Model 3 came out, and I was like, are you gonna get a Model 3 like free from Elon or whatever? She goes, no, I'm in line just like everybody else. His mom, dude, his mom
wow.
didn't get a discount or even like to be first in line. She goes, no, I registered just like everybody else.
That's cool.
And I think it really is at the kind of heart of their cognitive dissonance that they don't understand why people are excited. They don't understand that people will talk about the products and don't need to be paid. That there is an enjoyment and, there's something there that's real. And they just can't wrap their heads around what that is. They don't understand it. So they're thinking, oh, these people must be paid. It was actually one time this short seller wrote me and Elon an email, and he's threatened to sue us.
Was that the guy from the psych ward?
Yeah. And it was really funny. Elon just emails him back just curious, do they have, are you allowed to have a cell phone in the psych ward? And I emailed back lol. He's like, unless you admit that this Twitter account is controlled by Tesla, I will sue you immediately. Unless you delete all the tweets. Yeah, it was that guy was a nut job. But it's very satisfying seeing them all lose money. When the stock thing is happening, it's not really about us, because we're not going to really sell the shares before new batteries and full self-driving and all these things that are coming. We're not going to sell the shares, but it's just fun to know that these assholes, and there's nothing wrong with short selling, right? If you think a share is overvalued and you want to sell, that's fine. It's fine to just bet on a share price going down, but these people really crossed a line, attacking Tesla customers, harassing them. Just even Viv, just a college-age student, posting all this stuff about her. Earl, who's a member of, he's a service member of the military. It's really, really, sick, kind of the heights they took it to. And it's pretty funny watching them lose money. It's really crazy. We don't really know what's happening. But it's definitely, satisfying to be validated. And, you look at, Galley, all the analysts who said Tesla's going to $10 are going bankrupt, and some dude on YouTube just outsmarted all of them. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
And that was what was so nice, actually talking to Elon, getting that confirmation directly from him that everything that we had figured, because we put all align all the dots together, right? We know what's going on because we're enjoying the product every day or doing the research like Gally is. So, I mean, you got to understand what the mission is of the company, and also what the product is by actually driving one or getting to go in one, whatever.
You just said something right there, though. Most of these guys haven't even been in one, let alone own one, let alone had a multi-day loaner. They're just making the assumption that this is another car, whatever their experience with a car is, that happens to be electric. They have no idea that this is a whole nother thing. I think one of the case in points of that was Jim Cramer was pretty critical and bullish or bearish on Tesla until the day his wife dragged him for a test drive. And we watched this guy make a 180-degree turnaround like I have never seen.
Yeah.
He went from hater to in Elon We
Jim
Trust
Chill.
tweets to talking about this is the best thing ever made. He said, who cares about the financials? He became a fanboy overnight. He was even sending tweets about how he's just sitting in his car hanging out in it, and it's so enjoyable just being in his car. No other cars like this. until you've experienced the product, there's no possible way in this case to understand it, but that's rare, right? Plenty of companies come out and make Me Too products. They're just derivative. They're slightly iterative on whatever's there, and there's really not that much of improvement. So unless you've actually sat in a Tesla and gotten past the mainstream FUD, you could easily mistake its place and where its product was headed.
Yeah.
That's so true. And it's so hard to define what exactly it is, but it's just so contradictory to everything you know that you really have to experience it to wrap your head around it.
You're right. It is hard to explain what it is. And I think calling it a car really isn't the right term, because what comes to mind when you say car is not a Tesla, right? If anybody who's been in a car and you say, oh, I got this new car and it's a Tesla, they're like, oh, it's just a car. No, Tesla is not just a car. And there's so many things that go into that, right? Like all the way from how the supercharging works and the community, and then autopilot and the acceleration and the navigation system and the way you interact with the screens, right? And the software updates that you trigger from your phone, and then get up at 2 a.m. on Christmas Eve to go try out the full self-driving preview like I did. Like all of these things create an experience. Or two, like autopilot, just experiencing autopilot getting better. Like autopilot is very much, it's not sentient, but it is artificial intelligence. And if you're somebody who really tests out this technology, like I do, you're trying to learn how it thinks. And every time it gets a new update, I'm trying to catch up to figuring out where its strengths and weaknesses are, so I know where I can really rely on it. Like that is such a cool, engaging experience that you don't have with any other car, that like it's impossible to fully communicate this.
If you're a Tesla bear, go on Turo, rent a Tesla for a week, try autopilot on your daily drive. You'll start to get it.
And you should
every time when I get an autopilot, every time it's like you have that realization. It just clicks again and again. And just watching it get better, it's really profound, because you don't know how long it's going to take, but it's like, yeah, they're going to get this.
Yeah,
clearly.
dedicated.
And if you've owned one for any substantial period of time, I'm sure you guys remember the update that came like last March-ish, 2018, where autopilot went from like kind of a drunk teenager to like a really stable driver in a single update. For people who, see, Callie knows what I'm talking about. That was one of those moments that we'd kind of waited for progress for a long time, and then we all of a sudden got one of those big like exponential jumps in capability like you get in development of a neural net. So like part of that too, unless you have that history or like actually dive into understanding how these technologies develop, you don't understand that the improvements are not incremental, they become exponential. And that's something that like just blows the mind of people who aren't really following this field.
Changing the subject a little bit, we now know Model Y is coming in March. So that's pretty interesting. Anybody have any thoughts on Model Y?
Third row.
Well, it's going to be here sooner. It's sooner than expected. So I mean, it's going to make a huge impact. I mean, that whole market space is like, I think it's the second largest market of vehicles in the U.S. Right? So that's a whole untapped market that Tesla has not covered, and yet today. And look how successful Tesla are already today. So there's a whole bunch of new people that are going to need our help to understand Teslas.
Gally, I know you follow the number side of this closely. How do you see this impacting Tesla's financials over the next couple quarters? Knowing that, like, you know, they're 2 quarters profitability already. If Tesla can get 2 more, they become, what is it, part of the S&P?
Yeah.
They have to, yeah. So talk to us. How do you think Model Y falls into this?
It could actually hurt in the short term, because if they're not building that many cars on the production line, the gross margin is going to be super bad for the first couple quarters. So it kind of depends how fast they ramp. And then what the gross margin is. But I think I'm waiting for like Q2 to really see, because that'll be a full quarter of deliveries. But yeah, it's kind of up in the air. But I think by like Q3, it'll be a huge profitable contributor. But maybe Q1, Q2, still the gross margin could be weaker than the Model 3, so it'll drag down profitability. I don't know, because I know maybe people don't want to hear that, but I feel like people have been getting too hyped. Like, now we have Model Y, it's like automatic more profit, but it's not going to work like that right away, I think.
Well, I think that, you know, you would kind of think that looking at some of the other ramps, but it'll definitely be better than the other ramps. Obviously, Model Y shares a lot of parts with the Model 3.
It's like 75%. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of those parts, you know, the infrastructure, a lot of those lines, the paint shop and everything, it's already set up. So we're going to see dramatically less CapEx than the Model 3 in terms of, what it takes to ramp that. And at the same time, they're only selling performance and long range. So that's going to push the mix up. And then it's just another $3,000 more. But what's interesting is, it seems like they kind of have a new design here. Like in the shareholder letter, you kind of saw that, that they're combining some of these parts in the way that Elon was talking about on the Ride the Lightning podcast. And so I think what I heard them say at one point is that because they've actually improved the manufacturing, the cost is about the same as the Model 3, but it costs $3,000 more. And they're selling the higher end mixes. So if there is some, hit to the financials where they're not producing that many vehicles and they need to ramp, at least we have those other factors to offset it. And, if it weighs on Q1 a little, that's a pretty short-term thing. For 2020, with the market being 2.5 times as big, it'll be fireworks for sure, I think, in 2020. No doubt about it.
Very exciting. Yeah. Kristen, do you have any thoughts about Model Y?
I think it's going to be a whole middle America. I mean, for the cars, people want the X for larger family, but the Y is going to be able to meet that, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see how it's taken.
Yeah, totally.
There's a lot of people who just wouldn't have bought a sedan,
True.
for whatever reason.
Right.
Yeah.
And then some people prefer sedans to the Y. So I think there are few people prefer sedans, but in the market today. But certainly it's been amazing watching this, see how many Model 3s are being sold when people don't, the sedan isn't the preference. So to me, that's really exciting just to see how fast they can ramp up. And Tesla always has a trouble meeting the demand. I mean, it's like, how fast can they build these cars? That's going to be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's the big question.
I've had a lot of questions from actual owners or interested owners who are waiting on the Y to buy their first Tesla. And one of the questions they're getting from me, they've been asking me is, do you think, Model Y is just going to cannibalize sales of the Model 3? And they're, concerned to the extent of hurting the share price. And I don't think so at all. Exactly. Right. And yes, they'll definitely be initially, I think, a hit to Model 3 sales. But the net between 3 and Y is they will be selling more cars. Exactly for the case in point of people who haven't bought a Tesla yet because they were going to buy the Model Y. Obviously, like that right there proves it on itself alone that like these people didn't want the Model 3, they wanted the Y. Also, like I'm actually going to be getting the Y because functionally it solves some purposes for me. Like I'm going to get the 7-seater Model Y because I need a 7-seater vehicle. But if it wasn't for that, if I was going to be buying one, I'd much prefer the Model 3 because I like the look of the Model 3 much better. I don't really like the SUV thing so much. I don't like the crossover thing so much. And again, if I didn't have a kid and have some of this space need, I definitely wouldn't buy Model Y. I'd go Model 3. So like, I think the cars really can serve very different purposes and very different market segments. The one thing I do think we'll see happen is I think we're going to see a pretty loose used market initially on Model 3 for people who are going to sell their Model 3 now because they always wanted a Model Y, but they didn't want to wait, so they got a 3. So I think if you're in the market for a used Model 3, I think there's going to be a surplus of those for a couple months coming up.
Cool. Yeah. I have a feeling that those are going to sell pretty quick too. But sorry, go ahead, Omar.
I think on the cannibalization thing, it's so funny because, I mean, will Model Y cannibalize the Model 3? No, but I wish it would. I mean, if the Model Y cannibalized the Model 3, you're talking about a $3,000 price increase per car, higher mixes being chosen, and easier manufacturing for Tesla. This revised design that's a lot easier to manufacture. So in a way, the best thing for Tesla is if everyone just bought a Model Y. But of course, people aren't going to do that for the fact that they don't want to pay $4,000 extra. Maybe you want to put that into FSD instead. I mean, I know my next car is going to be a Model 3 Performance just because I'm not an SUV person. But I'm waiting until April now because, I really want to buy that Performance. But with Battery Day coming, I kind of have to wait for the timeline before I make any decision on that. But it's also interesting because the Model Y, and they kind of dropped some hints about this on the conference call. They're like, this is not a 10% different car. There's some stuff in here, and he talked about this on Ride the Lightning too. He said, we've been underselling the Model Y. We have not told you what this car can really do. There's some great stuff in here that we've not told you about, and you're going to be very surprised, and customers are going to notice the difference, and people who tear it down are going to notice a big difference. So I want to know, what is that? Show me the Model Y. Let's see it, And I think they're waiting because they don't want to slow down Model 3 sales, but I can't wait to find out what that is and whether it's going to roll into the Model 3. That's like the biggest question. And I wonder if they're going to reveal it on Jay Leno's Garage or what their plan is, but I'm dying to see that because they haven't really refreshed that platform yet with the Model 3 at all.
I had a really close friend. He's my little sister's close friend who I convinced to order a Model 3 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So he figures out recently about battery day. He's like, "Oh my God, do I need to cancel my order?" But
I would say no, don't cancel it. Yeah.
Yeah, I convinced him off. I'm like, I really don't think they're going to announce something and then the next day they'll have like 10x better batteries in the Model 3. And the batteries in the Model 3 should be same as Model Y, right?
Here's what I think, and maybe other people can chime in too, about why, if you want to get a car, get a Model 3 or a Model Y today. And the Model Y is going to have, the same battery technology to start with. So battery day is going to be in April. We don't know what they're going to announce, right? They're going to, they're not going to say, and all our batteries are that seems unlikely to me. And all our batteries are now replaced, and we're now getting rid of all the old batteries, and we are just doing all these new batteries. That doesn't seem likely to me because they're very battery constrained, and they're not just going to be like, we're throwing away the whole Gigafactory. Like, fuck you, Panasonic. Like, no, it's going to be like, so we think we have this battery technology, and we're starting to productionize it, and we're going to make a few of them. And it's going to be a lot more expensive at first, right? Because it's better, right? If the battery lasts longer, if it has better range, if it has better performance. If anything, I would think it might go for the high-end cars, the S and the X first.
Completely agree.
Whereas the volume cars, you want to use the batteries that are already in volume production. So it could be a year before we see, these batteries on the 3. But I'm just waiting because I already have a Model 3. I don't need a car immediately. So I at least want to hear the timing, what they say. But I think the Semi, the Roadster, the Cybertruck, those seem like, new battery vehicles potentially. And the one, it's going to be hard to get the volume production vehicles because you have to produce so many battery cells. I think Model 3 and Model Y, and even after the cells are really rolled out, those higher end variants or whatever, we don't know how they're going to do it. They're going to keep those lines up because they need all the cells they can get. So I think what you're going to see is first the new cells come in at the high end. They work their way down the product line. As volume expands, cost declines. You can now get it into the lower cost, higher volume products. And they lower the cost of the old technology. So it's like, maybe it'll be like, okay, well, now you can get a Model 3 with the old technology for $30,000,
I don't feel so bad because, Omar, that's exactly what I told my friend. His name is Chance. I was like, Chance, if anything, let's say this like worst case scenario, some crazy new battery tech, it's probably going to go into the S and X. And he definitely wants a Model 3 and not even a Model Y. So I think him holding straight and picking up the order, because I called him and I was like, dude, the worst, just go ahead and cancel it. All you're losing out is $100. And he texted me back. He goes, dude, I've already ordered like $500 worth of accessories. So he's like,
that's so common, yeah. Before they get the car.
I was like, yeah, that sounds like something I would do as well.
Just remind him to get the home link if he has a garage, because they don't include the home link module anymore. It's a separate thing. You have to add it.
And Omar, I completely agree with your assessment. I want to add something piggybacking onto it too. The next gen Roadster, to be able to fit the amount of kilowatts, the 200 kilowatts of energy capacity, they're talking into an even smaller car than the S. We know that's going to take a higher energy density battery, right? That they're going to have to get up to volume production to support. Same thing with the Semi, for them to be able to do that and not make the vehicle too heavy. I think 100% it makes sense that when they do deploy this, it's going to be an S and X first, because they couldn't possibly ramp up this technology fast enough to replace all the cells going into Model 3 that they're making, 3,000 of these cars plus a week. Like, it's just not practical. The other thing, too, is, and this is one that a lot of people are missing, because I think some people are afraid that, like, oh, it's going to come out and all of a sudden Tesla's going to sell a 500-mile range Model 3. They're not going to sell a 500-mile range Model 3 because you don't actually need 500 miles, and that's not stopping people from buying it. Getting past that 300-mile range is the sweet spot. Like, Tesla would be doing you a disservice by saying, hey, we're going to sell you this now at a 500-mile and still at the same price point. What you would be far better off getting is a 300-mile one they can sell to you for less. Because they've done studies on this. Most people aren't even driving more than 80 miles a day. But even people that are, 300 miles of range, especially with the speed of charging that we're stuff at right now, there are very few daily use cases for cars that people need more range than that. So again, even as they get this energy density better, I do not see them becoming to a point that these 3s or Ys are ever 500 miles. I think that's going to be something that's Cybertruck for the top end, the S and X eventually at the top end, because they're charging premium price points for them, but I do not ever see those ranges coming to the 3 or Y.
I think they're going to take the product line to 400. It's important to maintain a competitive advantage, leave everyone else in the dust, and 420 mile Model 3. I would totally buy that. If there was a 420, 100 kilowatt hour Model 3, I would put my order in faster than...
Yes, that's what I'm waiting for,
I would just be on the computer so fast putting the order in before I could even think about how I'm paying for it.
100 kilowatt hour ludicrous mode Model 3 all day long, dude. Omar, me and you are the same.
Yeah, we're going to be the first to, So, I mean, I think, and they've been kind of dropping hints about this. So we know the Model S is going to 400, and it's only a hair away. So I think they're going to get the product line to the 400s. The competitors are like struggling to get to the 200s. Porsche Taycan, the top end version's like 196. So it's going to be like, okay, we literally have double the range, and people only need to drive 80 miles a day. But if I want to drive like an asshole and go 90 miles an hour and swerve around people, burn some extra battery, if I want to go a week without charging, if I want to, sit in my car blasting the AC and watch Netflix for 3 hours and, do whatever. Yeah. Or, run a robo-taxi, that kind of stuff. So what he said about battery day is, hey, this was the craziest thing, was like the current technology, it doesn't scale. How do you replace every vehicle in the world with the current battery technology? You start calculating the kind of minerals you're going to use, the cost of that kind of thing. It's like, okay, this isn't feasible. So he's like, hey, this is how we're going to get to several thousand gigawatt hours, several thousand gigawatt hours. So that's the big question. It's not really even about, range or anything like that. It's just like, how are you guys going to scale to replace all the vehicles in the world with electric vehicles? And that's really the big question.
They got to get into mining.
Oh, he's already said that he was going to get into mining, right, at the shareholder meeting. Well, maybe.
Hopefully he's already bought mines. Hopefully he's sitting on them somewhere.
No, not
doesn't Texas have a good lithium deposit?
Isn't Elon over there right now?
Yeah.
He is, yeah. Actually, I'll mention something real quick. You guys know I'm from Kazakhstan originally.
Yeah.
So this crazy... y'all remember the Model Y unveil when Elon... I think he was talking about driving a Tesla from London to Beijing or something, and everybody's shouting out supercharging locations. And luckily, I'm standing like a foot away from him. So I yell out Kazakhstan, and he heard me, and he chuckles, and he's like, yeah, actually, we have some big supporters from Kazakhstan. And he's looking at me like laughing. And then
he was probably talking about
you.
Yeah,
He was, and he's announcing to the world that they're taking supercharge. He's like, yeah, we'll put superchargers in Kazakhstan. And like, I think sometime in the following week, I'm talking to the head of supercharging, and I think he was joking, but he's like, bro, where's Kazakhstan? Kind of like pulling my leg, but like...
Borat, come on. He doesn't know where Kazakhstan is.
Not an unfair question, man. I'm friends with you. When I first met you, I had to Google it, so...
Dude, and there's nothing wrong with that, because Kazakhstan actually used to be part of the Soviet Union. So when most people went to school, it wasn't even a country when you studied geography. Like, it became independent in the early 90s. But basically, through all this, I started like Elon connected me with some of the head guys. I flew with some of them to Kazakhstan in June of 2019, and we met the prime minister. We did like a road show, basically, right? So I'm like introducing him to all these people. So we signed a piece of paper saying we're going to install 2 supercharging locations in the capital city of Astana and one in Almaty, which is our financial capital. Within 6 weeks to the day, 6 weeks of us leaving, signing a document, Tesla had both locations set up. And the prime minister was so impressed by all this. Like, their office reaches out to me like, hey, the prime minister wants to meet Elon and he wants to tour the Tesla factory.
Nice.
And honestly, I thought, oh, this dude's on vacation or something and he wants to kind of like stealth mode, go check out Tesla. No. This was like a state visit. So I reach out to Elon's people and I'm like, hey, the prime minister wants to like tour Tesla factory. And the other special request was the prime minister wanted to drive a P100D Raven.
Okay.
Nice.
Now we know why he
Yeah.
got elected.
So I don't think it's a big deal. So the emails go back and forth and I'm like, I'll be there whenever they come just to kind of facilitate. So the U.S. Secret Service gets involved. Then I understood that this was like a state visit. And it wasn't just the prime minister, the entire government came, dude. Like every minister that works for this guy, Minister of Agriculture, Energy, Aerospace, and Technology. I was like, oh my. Then I started like stressing out. I'm like, oh my God, like this is insane. So I go over there. Part of why the prime minister came is he was basically, like he was super impressed with Tesla, but he wanted Elon to build a Giga factory in Kazakhstan. I mean, it's like a lot of jobs, right? It's going to put Kazakhstan on the map if they build I was thinking Giga 5. It sounds like Giga 5 is now going to be in my home city, actually. I'm probably sitting on top of it. I live in Austin, Texas. So you guys saw recently, Elon tweeted from Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Rumor mill is circulating like crazy. People are reaching, I mean, I don't know why. They think I'm like close to these people or something. I got people calling me wanting to like send land proposals for Gigafactory in Texas. I'm like, dude, I don't know them like that.
Don't tell them, man.
You're the Tesla hero of Kazakhstan. You know?
Yeah. So I've got stuff
Tesla
going
to
on in
Kazakhstan.
Texas. The funny thing is, before this podcast, Gally has been like my financial advisor type of person for ever since I've known him. I was like, bro, what do you think about? I call him every once in a while, and I like about investment advice and things of that nature.
Disclaimer: I'm not an advisor, though.
It's not
As a friend.
Can't do me like that.
As a friend. Sorry, bro. Sorry. As a friend, I mentioned to him what I'm doing and all that. And my stuff is pretty simple. It's basically all in on Tesla for the most part, and I do some crypto. So me and him like get along super well. Him and Sean Mitchell. So the two of them are kind of like looking at some of the stuff with me, and like this is. And then I understood. Sean kind of explained to me. He goes,
So you're just picking all the Gigafactory locations. Your hometown, Kazakhstan. All right, sorry, go
I
ahead.
think Australia is going to get a Gigafactory soon too, because they already have the battery plant South Australia. Right, with the,
I don't think so.
I think half
They're close
the lithium
to,
that Tesla's using today is coming from Australia. Believe it or not.
Dude, it would make so much sense. I'd love to see one over there. You know.
Yeah, but Australia's too close to China.
What's wrong with that?
It's
Australia's
a continent,
too
though.
close.
That's the thing. Australia's
Oh.
got so many resources.
I know, but there's no car factories in China. Like nobody makes cars there.
Australia?
I don't know.
You mean
I'm not
Australia?
saying I'm not saying it would. I'm not saying it would never happen, but you know, China's very close to Australia. It's very easy if they had to ship cars out of Gigafactory Shanghai.
Well,
to go
they'd
to
have to build
Australia.
right-hand drive, though. Right-hand drive could be the Australian for all the right-hand drive markets. They could make them over there too. So
That's
very
pretty
cool.
interesting. So let's talk about Gigafactory Austin, because it seems like that's more like getting closer to confirmed. Like, you know, we've seen a couple of hints that I think it's actually more of a done deal than Elon makes it seem. Like Trump had a thing where he goes, Elon's going to build a huge factory in America. And everyone was like, all right, what's he talking about? But then it's like Gigafactory, Texas. And he changes his location to Austin. And then if you look at his comment to Viv, he goes, you can go apply at any Tesla Gigafactory or Silicon Valley or Austin.
Where they make
Really?
chips.
Any
Yeah.
Gigafactory or Austin.
Yep.
Interesting, Elon.
They must make the hardware 3
It's
there.
funny, Texas is actually a huge oil and gas state too.
Yep.
I've kept this quiet for a couple of years, but now that Elon's revealed it, I feel like I can talk about it. I've known for over 2 years that Tesla has an incognito office here. It doesn't even have a sign.
Cool.
And the autopilot team is actually based out of Austin.
Yeah, he said that, and that. Wow.
He said it recently, but I've known this for years, like 2-3 years, and I just have to. And actually, I've been to the office, and I'm like, oh my god! And it was on accident. I wasn't invited. Like, it's very like secretive. But yeah, I went to go visit a friend, and they happened to be in the same building because the sign didn't say Tesla on the front. But then when I saw, I mean, you have to have like a swipe to get in. But then I saw like signs for Tesla and all this. I was like, oh my god, this is where the mecca of autopilot's actually happening in Austin, Texas.
Has it been there since 2015? Because he did a Texas A&M thing for Hyperloop then.
It's been there since then, yeah.
Okay, that must have been when it started. Okay.
Don't they have like Karpathy and other guys in Palo Alto though?
Yeah, they do because they have my friend who works on the neural net side of the AI. He's in Palo Alto. Yeah.
Well, you know what they do in
him.
Austin is they do their the FSD chip and the Dojo chip. Austin is a big center for chip making, and their fab is actually in Texas too. Samsung, where they fab the FSD chip. So yeah, it's a big chip making center for sure, which is really important for autopilot.
Here's my prediction. Giga 5, Austin, Texas, on the east side of Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
And I believe the products that are going to come out of the great state of Texas is going to be the Cybertruck.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
That seems like a given.
Everything in Texas is big, right? So Cybertruck's pretty damn big.
Sean Mitchell and I had a discussion. Yeah, Sean Mitchell and I had a discussion about this. So me and him were throwing this back around, and we were both like, dude, Cybertruck and maybe semi. But Cybertruck for sure. Imagine of the million F-150s Ford sells, like 20-30% have to be in Texas.
But they're starting limited production of the Semi this year, so we know they're going to have to make it at least in limited numbers somewhere. And I'm thinking Giga 1, if I had to guess, but who knows?
And the reason I've thought about this a lot, right? Because this is like happening on top of me, basically, like where I live. So the reason that Giga Austin makes sense, number one, the biggest reason why it's the labor pool, right? University of Texas, young, educated, white collar, blue collar. Austin has all that. And cost of living compared to California is like half.
Yeah.
You can live, you could buy a house
Like
here
a
for
king
$250,000,
Land,
$300,000.
yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And I'm a realtor by day, Tesla geek by night, so I know I can talk to these things, guys. And we're actually, my friend Matt Home and I are known as the Tesla realtors in Austin. We don't advertise that, but we drive around Teslas doing real estate, so people are like, oh, those are the Tesla realtors. But so that part of it makes sense. And then if you think about it, the port of Houston is like 2.5 to 3 hours away. So imagine in 2-3 years, they build this factory, they're cranking out Texas Edition Cybertrucks or whatever. If they want to ship it overseas, they could totally do it from the port of Houston. That's a huge port. International global port.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a great location for so many reasons, yeah.
When I thought about it afterwards, I'm like, oh my God, like it seems so obvious to me after Elon tweeted. I was like, what? I should have been pushing this a few years ago. I keep advertising for Austin, Texas, but the other thing that most people don't know is the only F1 track in America is in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, Circuit of the Americas.
Circuit of the Americas.
It's where you guys did the fully charged event, right? But the track wasn't open. I want to do that with the track open. Take my car on the track.
So the Roadster guys actually got to take their Roadsters on a lap.
Nice.
I wasn't there. I only saw the
that.
video and footage of it later, but like they got to take their Roadsters on the track. It was like, oh my God.
I'm going to take my Roadster when I get it, my Roadster 2. It's going to be at that track. Yeah.
I need some support from the Tesla community, especially you guys that are crazy famous on Twitter, to kind of like get some buzz around this. But I've finally gotten in touch with the owners of Circuit of America. I've got like one what do they call that? Kevin Bacon, one thing of separation from the ownership.
1 degree.
6 degrees of separation.
Yeah. So the ownership is fine with this idea, but I've got 2 Roadsters, next gen Roadsters coming through the referral program. My friend Matt is going to be taking one, and I'm going to be driving the other. So we plan on driving our roasters as everyday vehicles, which is insane, but why not? YOLO, right there, Gally?
Yeah.
Gally, YOLO?
YOLO.
But now I'm like, dude, it's a track car. So now I was like, dude, now if I can put superchargers in Kazakhstan, I should be able to put superchargers in my city at the F1 track.
Definitely.
So I'm going to try to get Tesla and Coda people together. So imagine like people that want to race their plaid mode cars or next gen roadsters, because that Tesla needs to do this now. Be thinking about it, because how embarrassing would it be if at the end of 2020 or beginning of 21, Anuarbek gets his roadster. What's the first thing I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be like Eli. I'm gonna go charge that thing up and go straight to the track, right? But then something happens and I can't charge. Like, it's just gonna like the PR nightmare around that. So I feel like the F1 track should be a focus for Tesla. Let's get like a campaign going.
It's one of the things I talked to Elon about when we finished the podcast. We were walking outside, because this is near and dear to my heart too, with the track driving. And I've taken my P3D on the track about 8 times now. So I'll be going this month as well, a couple times. Anyway, I asked him, I said, look, how about using the mobile charger for going supercharging when you're at the track? Because we could rent it out or something. That thing, I mean, there's only one of them right now, but certainly they could buy more. But in answer to that, he said, just talk to one of my guys and we'll try to get the superchargers installed at the track.
There we go. That's the investment I want to see from Tesla.
So he's already given me the go-ahead about that. I've just got to follow through now and talk to the right guys. But that's amazing. I mean, he's super on board with it. And from what I understand, I heard there used to be superchargers at Laguna Seca back in the early days when Elon used to drive his car on Laguna Seca when he had time back then.
Guys, February 6th, 2020, we talked about this. So when it happens in the future, Laguna Seca as well as Circuit of America's Coda, both getting at least a handful of superchargers. We're going to say it started between a collaboration between Third Row Podcast and the Tesla Geeks Show.
Definitely.
And now we just got to get the whole, because Elon definitely listens. Elon listens, right, to the community. So, and you guys have loud microphones.
Actually, when we went on the podcast, we're like, Elon, have you ever heard our podcast? And he goes, no. And I'm like, please don't listen to it. All right. Don't watch
we literally just started it. So
Yeah.
It's very new podcast. But yeah, I mean, he's aware of Twitter, and he knows us all from Twitter anyway. So yeah, I'm sure he knows.
I know there's people at Tesla who listen to it, so hopefully it'll circulate through there.
Cool.
But you know what I'm really excited for in Austin is just the new design that they're using for Shanghai and Berlin. Just a straight line. Like you saw in the shareholders letter, that Fremont versus Shanghai, and it's just so much simpler. That's what I want here in America too.
Yeah, we're going to get that. So should we go through and do some closing thoughts real quick and wrap it up? So Eli, you want to start? I know you got to head out probably pretty soon, so.
Yeah, sure. I just want to say, guys, thanks so much for having me and Anuarbek on your show, man. This has been
Such
fun,
a
and I
pleasure.
can see how these episodes could get long, man. It's just like a couple of friends hanging out. We just happen to also be
It's
on
pretty
camera.
much what it is, man.
Yeah.
That's why we talked to Elon for like 5 hours.
You know why? It's because we're all Tesla geeks.
We're 11.
Wait, so there's
We're
one thing
11s.
that there's so much we should have talked about, but Eli, how did you get that Starman outfit? Did you make it yourself, or what's the story there? Yeah.
Oh, you want to know about my friend Starman?
His friend.
Yeah, I wanna
Eli's
know
really
about that
good friends
guy.
with him.
I'm really good friends with Starman. So to get a suit like that made, actually it takes like a Hollywood FX studio pretty much. Tried to get SpaceX to sell me one. They wouldn't even talk to me. Not even kidding, by the way. But apparently
Dude,
they
that's
cost
like illegal.
50
That's like classified technology.
I mean, they own it though, right? So like, there's no government aspect to that suit; it's theirs. But they wouldn't sell one to me, and apparently they cost like $50,000 to $70,000 each to make.
Nice.
So that isn't an option. And again, they weren't going to sell, but they wouldn't sell me one anyway. So I partnered with a Hollywood FX studio. It still costs about $10,000 for the suit, completely custom made, and the helmet.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's dedication, man.
That is
Yeah,
hardcore.
no.
I thought I was a Tesla fan.
Oh, I had to do it. And actually how it came about is I was midway through producing. So it's crazy. I love that we're talking about this today because this is the second anniversary of the Falcon Heavy launch.
It is,
right?
yeah.
This is the second anniversary of
Sweet.
when Starman happened. So it was like 5 days after the launch that I began production on the Adventures of Starman comic book series. Literally only 5 days after. So I was like a few months into creating that, and I realized that like seeing Starman on camera was going to be the last time we would ever see Starman in real life. And that it really wasn't right for this symbol to just die and go away like that. So realizing that Starman needed to come back into the real world is what turned into that suit getting created. I should have paid more attention to what it cost, but I was like, it had to happen. I found the best FX studio I could to make it because like it had to be perfect. It had to look like something that was like out of a movie, and it did. So it was really thrilling. But yeah, I kind of blacked out on that whole project. I just had to do it, man. I was so inspired. Like I was obsessed. Still am. Like it's such a huge part of my life now. Like I probably spend a couple hours every night, like literally every night, most of the part on weekends for the last year and a half now. No, almost 2 years. 5 days short of 2 years. I work on this 7 days a week, whether it be fulfilling orders, writing content, producing these episodes, by the way, is a huge undertaking. Like Big Oil Strikes Back
really
episode 2 probably took 3-4 hours a day for like 6 months.
People are going to go to Mars and watch those, read and watch those. They're going to be like, look at this Starman as they're going to Mars.
Here's the goal. Here's the real goal of the series. That one day there is a kid who goes to Mars, and it started with him getting inspired by this comic book series. That's the real point.
Love it.
You guys ever see the movie Interstellar?
Cool.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
of course.
Yes, multiple times.
Okay. I really think, like, although I don't know if some crazy thing like blight is going to make food inhabitable, but at some point things on Earth are not going to be so good. And if we don't have enough support behind the space mission and the cause of putting humans on Mars before things get bad, if we don't build that support before then, when the public turns on this whole mission because the economy falls apart and currency collapses and people are starving and things get bad, if we don't build that support now, it may never happen. And if it doesn't happen, humanity may not have the same future that we're supposed to. So this is, I think, really the most important. It's funny, I'm super obsessed with Tesla, and everybody knows me as a Tesla geek, but like the whole going to Mars thing is actually where it's really at for me. So
Totally, man.
I'm excited what Elon's doing with
capacity.
space and SpaceX. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, make us a multi-planetary species is how Elon describes it. It's super.
And I got to say, I don't want to go. I love my comfortable ass life on Earth. I love my Tesla, of which if I were to go to Mars in my lifetime, I would have neither. They're not going.
No,
That
you
won't
can drive
happen
your
in our
Tesla on
lifetime.
Mars. You just have to get it there.
Right,
You have to get
exactly.
your Cybertruck.
Cybertruck.
Right.
for sure.
Right.
Cybertruck on Mars.
But
Well,
realistically,
I mean, you can drive any Tesla there because they're all electric vehicles, so they would all run over there. They don't
Totally,
need,
you can. And I think eventually Teslas will be made on Mars. But I think in our lifetime, we'd be 80 years old by the time that's even possible to get that there. So
We'll
it's
have
not going to make
sleeves.
sense for me. But yeah. But yes, I don't want to go to Mars, but I want to see humanity to get there, and I want to help promote that cause. So
Love it, man. And a quick question for you, Eli. Has Starman ever driven your space Tesla with the SpaceX logo on the back of it? Seeing that beautiful
Starman
wrap
is-
you have on that car, it's amazing.
Starman has stolen my car a number of times.
It's a stainless steel wrap on your Model S. That's so beautiful. I love that, man. It's the best.
Thanks, man.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
get one of those.
So the same way you guys will be the people who
what's your
order
website
the
for your comic? Isn't there? It's like My Tesla Adventure or something, or Adventures
Oh
of
yeah,
Starman.
my Tesla Adventure is a Tesla Owners Club, and then the Adventures of Starman.com is for the comic series. But I got to say, the same way you guys are the people who, as soon as the Performance Model 3 with Ludacris comes out, you're going to be like the first to order. I was that guy for the Raven. In fact, I actually placed 2 orders. One that was to the Fremont factory because I'm not too far away, and one to the showroom in Rockland because I was going to take delivery of whichever one got there first. So I was literally like the first person to take delivery of the car because they had that dot sticker thing they were waiting for.
Remember that.
I took delivery of the car, and less than 24 hours later, I had it on a tow truck at max battery, taking it to the drag strip so I could be the first to set the world record, new quarter record mile time.
And that was so fast, and it was on the 19s. I remember you didn't even have your referral wheels on there. Remember you
Yeah,
had
so I
the
decided
19s?
to try it with the 19s first just to see what it would do right from the factory. Like, literally just base. Although they did sell their arachnids at that time, so that was technically a stock option too. I just wanted to see what it would do just literally like with 50 miles on it. And it did. It did a 10.6, and then it does 10.5s with the
Amazing.
arachnids. So, yeah, it's crazy.
I like the arachnids.
So
Me
cool.
too. And you know what? I think it can go faster because those arachnids that I put on, the tires had already had 15,000 miles and a full
Right.
heat cycle around Laguna Seca. So those tires were not in great shape. I was getting slippage when I was launching at the drag strip, even on when I did that 10.5. So I think I could probably get into high 10.4s.
Very cool. Gally did a launch in my S. Actually, I think you had
Several.
one. Yeah, you had a few. Those were the used tires, but then I think the next time you visited, we had the new tires on. So it was definitely. Did you notice the difference?
No. They're all way
It
too
was
fast.
sick
Like
in both cases.
Yeah, I want to actually get this on the podcast. Is the feature I'm most requested for in a Tesla is the handlebar to hold, like, because I think it goes way too fast, and I never know what to do with my hands, and I'm always trying to hold on because everyone in the third row
Just do
drives
this.
like maniacs. I'm saying, like, seriously, if it's not on autopilot,
Yep.
they drive like, and I'm like, maybe it's because I don't have a Tesla and I'm not used to it, but.
Yeah,
I'm the
the
same
whole
way,
time,
dude.
the whole
It's
time we were here
ludicrous
for
plus.
the Elon interview, we were just launching in our Teslas, and Gally was like, "Where's
Yeah.
the handle?" It's like, shit.
what
Should
do
we
I do
ask
with my
Elon?
hands?
Yeah, it was hilarious.
If I had to guess, it was probably like one less part. You know,
Oh, we actually asked about this. Hey,
What's that?
Anuarbek, do you remember? We actually, the director of design at Tesla answered that question for us at the Owners Club program. You want to share with them what he said?
What's that?
I don't remember.
They didn't like it was an aesthetic thing. They didn't like. They
Oh,
didn't want
the
to add
handles?
this thing. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh.
They didn't. One, they didn't think it was necessary, and they didn't like the impact on the aesthetic.
No,
Yeah.
I was gonna add. You know how Eli basically talked about how Falcon Heavy 1 was like the big milestone in his life, where things just kind of like went to the next level for him. Mine actually was the second Falcon Heavy launch.
Where we
Soph,
met?
do you remember?
Dude,
where we met.
that was amazing.
That's when my life
Yeah, yeah.
changed.
That was
so
amazing.
this was part of the Tesla referral program, right? So
Yeah,
I
totally.
like at one point I was like
Secret
in the
level
top
3.
5 or something. Yeah, secret level 3.
Yeah.
Nice coat.
They invited.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
I have
the
that.
logo right here. So
There you go. Yeah, I have that same jacket that I keep with me at all times. But
Pretty
Tesla
much me
invited
too.
us to Orlando. Tesla invited us to Orlando. Eli and I went together, and that's where I actually met Soph for the first time. And when I introduce people, introduce Eli to my friends, I tell them, I'm like, hey, this is my friend. His nickname is 11, and they're like, why do you call him 11? I'm like, he's 11 out of 10 fanboy.
yeah,
Like a lot of people in my life think I'm insane, but I'm like, dude, I'm a solid like 9.5. But if you meet my other friends, and I'm pointing to all of you guys in here, I'm like, dude, they're like next level. They're like above a 10 in what they've done for the company, the mission, and just like what they've done for the community. You guys all like, I'm so happy to be on this podcast because
Thanks, man.
I'm like a big fan of all of you guys, first of all, but like individually, and then when you guys combined forces for this podcast, I was like, oh, this is epic, dude. And
that's why it's so hard to end our
Soph-
podcast every time.
I know, dude. So,
We had so much fun.
But we had Soph on our podcast, the Tesla Geeks Show, several times,
3,
and I
yeah.
remember him being like, "Man, like because there's like all this pent up energy, right? Like, and then I was so happy when you started like y'all's own podcast with all the like famous people from Twitter, and I was like, this is so epic." But
famous people.
and
We're all
Soph-
famous now.
Soph,
I love it.
do you remember?
Dally,
do
I'm
you
gonna have a
remember-
shirt made for you that says that guy on YouTube. That guy on YouTube.
Oh, nice.
We'll just
No,
have
but
that
the
guy on
crazy part
Twitter.
of this, the Falcon Heavy launch was pretty insane because so Eli and I walk into this room, is me and Eli and my cousin Anuarbek was with us. Do y'all remember they gave us this like penthouse suite almost, this massive room, and I was like,
Yeah.
this seemed like it was like too much. So I asked some of the organizers, I'm like, hey, I don't need all this. They're like, oh, some of the executives said the after party is going to be in your room. I was like, oh God. Soph, you were at this after party. I don't know how much of this we could talk about, but there were very high-ranking Tesla SpaceX executives that were just like the coolest people in the world, but we all congregated into my room. Do you remember what we were doing? We were watching the Falcon Heavy launch on repeat, basically, and people were giving toast, but it got so loud at one point, police showed up. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to end up on the front page of some newspaper. I was like, oh my goodness. But then we explained, basically I went out of the room, I closed the door behind me. I'm like, officer, this is not what it looks like. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, this is like the biggest geek like hangout you'll ever see. They started laughing. I'm like, no, I'm being serious. We just launched this rocket, and literally the reason people are being loud in this room is they're watching the Falcon Heavy launch on repeat, and they started chuckling. They're like a bunch of nerds, nerds being nerds. I was like, yeah, this is like a geek get together. So I opened the room and I showed. I was like, yeah, you can see like there's nothing nefarious going on here. It's just like take like a bunch of 11 out of 10s and put them all in one room. And Soft, do you remember? Like nobody wanted to leave. Like we hung out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like crazy partying. We were talking Tesla like this, but till like 6 a.m.
Uh-huh. So,
yeah, it was insane.
So we can't do this with our podcast, although we want to. But that would be like a lot of editing for me to do.
Except when Elon's on.
To wrap up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that my wife is more understandable about that. But yeah, it's so great to have you guys on the podcast, and we'll definitely have to do this again because there's not enough time to talk about everything we want to talk about for sure. So yeah, we'd love to have you back.
And if you got so Eli, Instagram, you're at My Tesla Adventures. You're where people can follow you. Mine is Super Tesla Geeks. I grabbed that early on. So Super Tesla Geeks if you want to follow all my insider crazy Tesla adventures. And then our podcast is the Tesla Geek Show. The brother podcast to the third row. So thank you guys again, dude. This is so fun. We got to do this again.
Definitely.
This was so much fun.
I was talking to Everyday Astronaut, and we were talking about when we met Elon, and I was saying how calming actually Elon was. Like, people say I know he's intense, and I know he's intimidating, but I think when you meet him outside of the work, he's actually so confident, it's extremely calming. So, and that's what Tim was saying too. So shout out to Tim.
Stay tuned. Speaking of shout out to Tim, I met Tim for the first time recently. Did you guys see the tweet he put out about he wants to go see rocket launches in Kazakhstan?
Yes.
So everybody replied saying they should talk to one guy, and it was me. Yeah. So Tim DMs me, and I met him just this last weekend. Gali was there. We all hung out in Austin. It was a lot of fun. But stay tuned. There's something maybe happening in Kazakhstan with Everyday Astronaut.
Cool.
Nice.
I'm not gonna give away too much, but stay tuned. It'll be epic.
Awesome.
All right, I'll say this for my closing thoughts.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about just fanning out and meeting Elon and being excited about that, but for me, this never really started with Elon. I think Elon's like hilarious and all that, and super cool, but the reason why, I think we look up to Elon so much and we're such fans is there's something in there that, connected with us and made us want to be fans, all of us. It's not necessarily just Elon himself, but there was some product that touched us. And, for me, trying autopilot and being a software engineer and having that realization that, oh my God, there's no reason why a piece of software can't drive a car. And I've seen it, and I've seen it get better. And the reason why I'm so excited about Tesla is really, everybody has their own reason, but for me, it's this. It's autopilot and full self-driving. And the fact that, it's just going to change everything. It's dramatically underappreciated, and people really don't believe it yet. In all the talk about Tesla, nobody's really been talking about this, but it's been happening under the scenes. And Elon said on the Q4 conference call, you're going to see dramatically higher volume from the Gigafactories, combined with dramatically increased margins. It's going to save so many lives. It's going to impact everything. Nobody's going to be questioning whether Tesla's a $150 billion company. And it's underappreciated, but I'm so excited about it. And, so excited to be able to meet Elon and talk about it a little bit, and all that. But at the end of the day, this is the big story of the year for me, is that they're going to launch Navigate on Autopilot for city streets this year. And people are going to laugh at it, but if there's one thing to watch in the Tesla story, watch this. Because autonomy will make electrification happen. It will be the single factor that makes everyone go from gas to electric. And it's, even if you spend all day thinking about it, I think you can't imagine all the implications. It's like if someone gave you an iPhone in 2007 and they're like, tell me all the implications of this in the next decade. You can't imagine it. And everybody has their own thing, but for me, that's why I'm so excited, and why I'll come on this podcast every week and talk about it, and how we got to know Elon and why I love Elon so much is because it's like, wow, this guy really did something bold. Everyone else was pursuing this bullshit strategy where they're never going to deliver self-driving cars, and he tried something really bold that other people aren't. And that's pretty cool. So yeah, watch Autopilot this year, 2020.
Gal, you have any closing thoughts you want to say?
No, that was beautiful. I'm inspired.
It was beautiful.
No, but I think I really connect with the point though. It's not about like, I always say that too, because everyone's like, oh, why are you obsessed with Elon Musk? It's like, has nothing to do with Elon Musk really. It's like the things he's doing, what he's building, like his actual just straight up achievements. Like that's what really, connects all of us in some way. So yeah, that was a great point, Omar.
And just to follow up on that, I one of the questions that you asked Omar to Elon about, does he ever question, some of his things that may be considered crazy ideas? How does he have the courage to do that? And his answer was so great because it's like he has accumulated all this knowledge. He's read a lot of books. He's been able to retain all that information. He can recall things that probably a lot of us have difficulty. I mean, he's still a human being, obviously, but the amount of knowledge he has to act on is quite a lot, right? Even his mom calls him the internet before the internet was the internet.
Boy.
So, but his answer to that was that he's a hyper rational person. His decisions are hyper rational. So he is acting on things that as long as it doesn't defy the laws of physics, it can be done, right? So why not? If you make it as simple as possible to make that happen, and that's why I love his first principles approach, because he's like, yeah, what's the easiest way? What roadblocks can we remove? Removing processes to make this happen as easy as possible. But you can only do that if you do the hard work. Like the first Tesla they ever made was built on the Elise that wasn't made to be an electric car. So he had said to us that it would have been easier if he just started from scratch, which they did with the Model S, and look how much better it is. Like the first Gigafactory, the Gigafactory 1, now they've got Gigafactory 2, well, not really 2, but Gigafactory 3, Shanghai, how it's optimized and how we're going to get that same sort of thing in the next subsequent ones. So it may seem crazy when you don't have all the pieces, but he's thinking about all these things that are so far ahead. So yeah, it's very admirable, and I certainly respect, and it was quite an honor to meet him, and it just felt very like he was our friend, but he's solving some of these problems when no one else is going to solve them, So I added some of the combined video. I added some things that, not that video, but some of the things, like he had said something about his mom, like when Vincent had said, like, everybody's making electric cars, and he's like, yeah, everybody and their mom. And then he turned to May and he's like, hey, Mom.
Yeah. I remember. I think that was in it. Oh, and Omar, I love what you were saying. I'll finish off by saying, from my side, you're totally right. It's the product, the technology, right? But the Tesla community, I call it Tesla family.
Yeah.
You guys have seen me tweet that out all the time. This is like honest truth to me. Like I built this, like I have my core family, right? But like you guys to me, feel like brothers and sisters. Like we have this other Tesla family, and we have this common, I guess that common thread is what Omar was talking about. Elon is not at the center of this thing. Like we love what he stands for and his mission and what he's doing, but it motivates us to be better at everything we're doing individually, but then together as well. It's like this. People all the time say it's like a cultish type thing. It is.
What brings the Tesla community together is we all know a secret. We've all seen something, whether it's because you got a Tesla or you rode in someone's Tesla. We all found out about this secret that most people are just completely oblivious about. And
it's amazing.
We know what, everybody who is part of this cult knows we know is inevitable,
Right. Yeah, it's just going to become normal, and then anyone who's not in the cult will be considered weird.
One day everyone will be in the cult. But right now it's like this secret, it's like this thing you can you get excited about together because not that many people know. And
all right, guys. Well, thank you so much again for joining. It's been really fun. I can't wait to do this again because it's such a highlight. So actually, we're doing another one tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
so
great.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. So signing off, Third Row Tesla. Peace, guys. Thank you.